2, teste. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the second day of Eracon. This morning we'll start with a presentation titled Strategic Partnership and Knowledge Alliance, Concrete Example on How to Modernize AGS. The presentation is being held by Daphne Scherer, a Policy Officer of the European Commission. Daphne, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me up there? Yes? Okay, that's great. They say that early bird catches the worm, so if you are here at this time of the day, you're definitely an early bird. And this might also be very beneficial in case you are thinking about applying to either a strategic partnership or a knowledge alliance, because you're going to have about 1 year now, a bit less than 1 year, to prepare a good application. And we are going to talk about concrete examples from the first call last year, 2014. And I will talk a bit about the policy objectives and how strategic partnerships meet these objectives. And then Gilles will talk more about how the knowledge alliances meet the objectives of the higher education modernization agenda. So, as I just said, and maybe I already unveiled the secret, the reason why we have budget for these projects in the so-called Key Action 2 of the Erasmus Plus program, which focuses on innovation, on cooperation between different partners engaged in education and training fields. The reason is because it's a tool to implement the policy objectives outlined in the modernization agenda. This is a document which was published in September 2011, so it's been there for quite a while. So I'm sure you're already familiar with it, but just to kind of refresh a little bit, what is it about? The modernization agenda builds on 5 pillars, and these are the pillars that were identified as where there needs to be the most work on in order to make sure that higher education, the higher education institutions and the systems are modernized and responsive. The first pillar is about increasing attainment levels, making sure that the students that start university manage to finish their degree on time and that they do not drop out, but also making sure that we can increase the access, the possibility to access higher education to all possible students. The second one is about quality and relevance of higher education, meaning that it's not enough that students go to university and they complete their degree. It has to be useful for when they go into the labor market. It has to be relevant. And there is a lot of strong focus on the quality of teaching, the quality of the programs, the quality of higher education, to make sure, again, that our graduates have the right skills for the labor market. The third pillar is about strengthening quality through mobility and cross-border cooperation, meaning that here there is a potential for improving the mobility actions of the program, experimenting new kinds. We will talk almost in a few slides about virtual mobility and new kinds of mobility. And of course, cross-border cooperation, which is very important. The fourth pillar is reinforcing the so-called knowledge triangle, meaning being able to link the universities with the business and, of course, the research, the regional development, and excellence where it can be found. And Gilles will talk more about this excellent factor. And finally, we have the fifth pillar on improving governance and funding of higher education institutions. So these are the policy objectives we would like to reach, and the opportunities that we will present to you today are tools to be able to implement these policies. So in Key Action 2, Cooperation for Innovation and Best Practices, what we aim to do in these 7 years of Erasmus Plus is to work towards new practices for higher quality in teaching and learning. And here, learning is important, but also the teaching. It's very important that we have good teachers in universities so that the students can really get the right skills. We want to focus on better use of new technologies, on the stronger cooperation between the fields with the labor market, so cooperating with the companies and enterprises, and finally fostering student mobility with embedded mobility windows in curricula to make sure that more students will benefit from an Erasmus Plus mobility. And for this, we foresee to have, for the 7 years of the project, about 25,000 funded strategic partnerships and about 150 knowledge alliances. And we will talk a little bit more later about why this difference, why it's so competitive. These are the objectives of the two. We feel sometimes it's not so easy to understand the difference between the two. So I'm left now with this hard task of trying to explain to you the difference between these two so that you can identify which project could best fit your needs and which project you would like to apply. So strategic partnerships, as I said, they have to be, as the name says, strategic, and they have to be partnerships. So you have to include partnership of relevant different stakeholders, and these have to be a wide range of stakeholders that are important for the project you need to develop. For example, if you want to have a project with work-based learning, of course you have to involve companies where the students can go and do their work-based learning. So the idea is that here all the different actors that are important in higher education come into play together. And we want you to think strategically, to think what can you achieve not just for the duration of the project, but also in longer term, to really start building a strategic cooperation with your partners. And you get funding for it. As I said, the aim is to contribute to achieving the objectives of the modernization agenda. On the other side, knowledge alliances, they also want, of course, to promote, to develop, to implement these long-lasting partnerships, but this has a very strong focus on the business and academia partnership. The impact is meant to trigger innovation in higher education and or in the companies, and to foster also new attitudes towards the university business cooperation. And here, so there is a strong focus on innovation and entrepreneurship. And this idea that in these kind of partnerships, in the knowledge alliances, the universities and the businesses, they have to be on the same level. So that is reflected in the composition of the partnerships. For strategic partnerships, the minimum composition is 3 organizations from 3 different program countries. And if you can show really added value, you can also add partners from partner countries. But here you really need to explain why a partner in a partner country is needed, and you could not find a similar partner within the program countries. For the knowledge alliances, as I said, we want the universities and the businesses to be on the same level. That is why you need to have minimum 2 higher education institutions and 2 enterprises in the knowledge alliances. And the knowledge alliances have, let's say, stricter minimum requirements because you need to have at least 6 organizations from 3 program countries. Partner countries is the same as for strategic partnerships. And within these 6 organizations, as I said, you need to have at least 2 higher education institutions and 2 enterprises. The duration of the projects, it's between 2 and 3 years. It's very important for the strategic partnership that you really know before how long your project should be, because the duration has to be chosen at application stage. And the budget for a 2 years strategic partnership, it's up to 300,000 euro, and for a 3 years project, it's up to 450,000 euro. If you have a project that is in between 2 or 3 years, then we apply a percentage pro rata of depending how many months it is. And the budget for the knowledge alliances is actually much higher. For a 2 years project, it is up to 700,000 euro, and for a 3 years project, it's up to 1 million. So it's quite a big budget. The management is done differently. We have decentralized part of what used to be the LLP centralized actions. You might remember them from LLP. So the strategic partnerships are now managed by the national agencies, meaning that if you're interested in applying, please contact your national agency. And the national agency will also be the one that will be in charge of evaluating your project. And when I say your national agency, I mean the national agency of the organization that will apply as coordinator. We have seen that sometimes, this is already a sneak preview of the results of the first call, we know that sometimes organizations thought, maybe in that country there is more money, so instead I ask this partner to apply. That's not always a good idea, because we have experts evaluating it, and they can tell if the coordinator is really the organization applying, or if maybe this was supposed to be in another country. So we strongly recommend you to really decide who will be the applicant, who will be the main coordinator, and the main coordinator will apply to its national agency. On the other hand, knowledge alliances, these are centralized to the executive agency, and that's why Gilles is here with us to talk more about it. Okay, so a little bit more now on the strategic partnerships. What are the strategic partnerships intended to do? Well, I said we want to reach the objectives of the modernization agenda. So how do you do it? Well, the idea is that with these projects, you can develop, you can test, you can adapt, and you can implement innovative practices related to different things. It could be developing, for example, a joint study program or curricula, or even just shorter modules together with labor market actors. It could be discovering new pedagogical approaches to make sure that, for example, ICT is better used. It could be engaging with the local or regional authorities to make sure that the knowledge triangle really works. It could be project-based transnational collaboration between enterprises and students or staff in universities to study real-life cases to make sure that the curriculum of the students is really relevant for the labor market. It could be exploring a new variety of study modes or new varieties of mobility to make sure that there is better quality and better access. It could be, for example, implementing innovative practices in distance or part-time learning, modular learning, and so on. And also, of course, it could be to facilitate permeability between the education fields, for example, between VET and higher education. And finally, it could be to develop some support services, for example, project related to improving the guidance, counseling, coaching methods, and tools. So these are just examples. It's not an exhaustive list. We look for your ideas to bring the innovative aspect. These are just some ideas that we gave so that it could be a bit more feasible to understand what we are expecting from these projects. Now, with strategic partnerships, as I said, it is also possible to test new forms of targeted student and staff mobility. Now, normally, student and staff mobility is dealt by Key Action 1. So we have quite a big chunk of the budget dedicated to mobility. So mobility, you would expect, should not be repeated here in strategic partnerships. And that's correct. But if it's a type of mobility that is not allowed in Key Action 1, then it could be used in Key Action 2. For example, we have the blended mobility of learners, where they can go abroad for less than 2 months for physical mobility, and then couple it with virtual mobility. For example, it could be a particular group of students that has special needs, and they cannot go abroad for at least 2 months like they should under Key Action 1. That's why we open the possibility under Key Action 2. And from the 2014 call, I can already tell you that we have 21% of projects that applied blended mobility. We also have the opportunity to develop intensive study programs. So this is a kind of development of what was already possible under LLP for intensive programs. with the difference that here it's not enough for strategic partnerships to only have an intensive program. Why? Because we really want you to develop a stronger strategic cooperation. So you can have an intensive program in it, but that's not enough. You should have a plan of really what you want to achieve, and then try to experiment with different ways. And we had, however, 56% of projects with intensive study programs. It's also possible to organize short-term joint staff trainings, or as well long-term teaching or training assignments, meaning more than 2 months, because in Key Action 1, staff mobility is only up to 2 months. So in case you're interested in developing a project for which it would be really relevant to have a mobility of a professor, of a staff member for more than 2 months, you could use the strategic partnerships. So the title of this session was Concrete Examples of Modernizing Your Higher Education Institution. So I will try to give you some examples of how the successful projects from the 2014 call managed to achieve this. So I will now present a little bit the results of the Strategic Partnerships Call 2014. You have already heard yesterday that the success rate was really quite strict. We received over 900 applications relating to the higher education field in 2014, and only 155 projects were selected for funding in the 33 different program countries. Now, as Vanessa mentioned yesterday, we are going to have an increase in the budget. It's not visible yet. It will be in a couple of years. But still, these projects are really good, and I hope it can really give you some ideas of project applications that you might be interested to submit. About the areas of education, for higher education, these are just the results relating to higher education. We covered really a huge range of areas, from local sustainable development to employability, renewable energies, digital education, recognition of credits for traineeships, really a very diverse area. And that is good, because in every area there is some item that has to be focused on in order to be able to modernize your higher education institution. So we welcome applications in all the areas. Now, what made a project a successful project? Okay, we said the success rate unfortunately was quite limited. So what do all these projects have in common? Well, we have seen that the successful projects, first of all, they demonstrate how they want to contribute to achieve the objective of the modernization agenda. So it was very clear in the application to which of the 5 pillars they were applying and why they thought this project was really relevant for our policy objectives. Secondly, they involved really a good, appropriate, but also diverse range of relevant partners. I was giving before the example of work-based learning in companies. You need to involve the companies. So this is the kind of things we're looking at. Successful projects were also very innovative in terms of the outputs and or the working methods. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples later on. They demonstrated EU added value. Of course, they also ensured to respect the requirements of quality of mobility in case they wanted to experiment these new forms of mobility that I was talking right a minute ago about transnational learning and teaching mobility. They emphasize a potential impact not only inside the organization of the project but also outside the project. And finally, they had a very effective dissemination plan with a good exploitation of results. We want really the results to be attainable. So these are the popular topics that we received for strategic partnerships in the 2014 call. We had 24% of projects focusing on new innovative curricula or educational methods or developing of training courses. That was quite a big number, almost 1/4 of the projects. Other popular topics were ICT and entrepreneurial learning and open and distance learning. These were 9%, 7%, and 7%. Finally, we had about 6% of projects focusing on international cooperation, international relations, development of cooperation, and also quite a lot focusing on enterprises, industry, and SMEs, and research and innovation. Those two are 4%. And we had plenty of other popular topics, but I didn't include it. These are really the most, as I said, the most popular ones. So I keep talking about innovative, but what is this innovative dimension? Well, innovative dimension means to develop new interactive project-based or collaborative online learning approaches, innovative training schemes, OER, learning platforms. All these were all very innovative, and they were presented as such in the successful applications. Also, we had quite a lot with about skills development, innovative ways to develop the skills, making sure the students have a more entrepreneurial mindset, and actually here, since the areas are so varied, we will inform the other services of the European Commission in case there is, let's say, a project on sustainable usage of natural resources. We're going to inform the other colleagues in the Commission that deal with these topics to tell them that there are interesting projects developing under the Erasmus Plus framework. So this really, we want to make sure that the projects you develop are really exploited. And here I can give you an example of a project that was selected. It's called Early Identification of STEM Readiness and Targeted Academic Intervention. It's a project, the coordinator is Kiyo Löwen, and this is a project that aims to reduce the high rates of dropouts in STEM subjects, because actually STEM students have a higher risk of dropouts. And so the idea is really to focus on the academic readiness of the students, to identify which skills would make, let's say, an engineering student a good engineer, and to see if maybe something can be changed for the selection, because right now, for example, to select engineers, they only focus on math and physics grades. So this project, we looked at what are really the skills that are needed from these people, so that the selection can be moved from a knowledge-based selection to a more competence skills selection. And also, they are going to put in place new intervention measures for the students in their first year to make sure that they can identify the students most at risk of dropouts. So this is again one of the examples. Still on the innovative dimension, I would like to mention the involvement of end users. Here we had quite many projects really involving end users, such as students and employers, to improve or to revise the content and form of the teaching materials. And one of the examples is a Slovenian project called Healthy Lifestyle for Aging Well. And this project is about raising awareness of students of nursing, but also of elderly people, to make sure that we promote active aging, because with the life expectancy becoming longer in Europe, there are new challenges that have to be confronted. And so this project is really trying to engage the students of nursing to make sure that they learn about active aging, but also to involve the elderly. And here they're going to have an intensive program in Slovenia. They're going to have virtual mobility. They are going to include the elderly people. Over 150 elderly people involved in the project activities. They're also going to have short training programs for these for the students of nursing involving the elderly. So all this is and also making sure that the elderly people improve their digital skills. This is what one of their training courses is going to focus, because this is really important. So this was just to give you an example. Also about the intellectual output, because this is a very important element of strategic partnerships. So we saw quite a lot of projects that have e-learning platforms or virtual training modules as intellectual output. And here I just mentioned one example of a Finnish project called Communication in Mobile and Virtual Work. And this is about increasing the number, it focuses on the need to increase the number of mobile workers and to improve their communication literacy, in particular with virtual and mobile communication, and improving their digital skills. So here, for example, the universities will develop a virtual training modules of 60 CTS in English and Spanish to make sure that they can teach these important new communication skills to the students. And also they're going to include to have some modules for the teachers to learn how to teach these skills that employers want the students to have. Other projects had instead good practices like kits or guidelines or guides as intellectual outputs. And here I will just quickly mention a Hungarian project called International Social Innovation Competition for Students and Adult Learners. So as the title says, the partnership will organize a competition for the students and for adult learners. They also involve not only higher education institutions, but also one adult education provider, NGOs, regional development organizations. And the aim of this project is to raise awareness of social enterprises, social entrepreneurship, social innovation among the students, and to try to encourage the students to be interested in to think in a socially responsible way, and to be interested by social enterprises. So they're going to develop with this competition also a set of good practices, but also a kit to support the universities that would like to organize similar initiatives in the future. Other intellectual outputs include joining training programs, and what we saw really in most projects in most countries is that open access is a common denominator. This was a very important factor in all the applications. And now about dissemination. I said before that the successful projects have a really good dissemination and impact plan. So, for example, some of the projects include not only traditional measures, but also new measures. Traditional measures are, for example, leaflets, websites, brochures. These are more the traditional ones, but also new measures, new tools like social media campaigns, regional seminars, online communities for professionals, networks, and so on. And the good projects have really a good identification of target groups, both internal and external to the partnership, and they measure the potential impact, for example, using performance indicators. So these are what we could see from the list of selected projects. And here there is an example of a German partnership called MOOC Accessibility Partnership, and the aim of this project is to create a joint curriculum framework by creating a MOOC on accessible design in ICT, because in ICT there are very few people that know about accessible design to make sure that even people with special needs can have access. So it's the dissemination of and feedback of this MOOC in this project, for example, will be the basis for a new set of more in-depth and focused learning topics, so that the dissemination is really something ongoing and the feedback as well is something ongoing in the project. So this was just to give you a kind of idea of what were the concrete examples of projects results from our first call. We hope you will not be discouraged by the low success rate, but rather that you are going to be interested. This is an excellent forum for finding new partners, innovative, relevant, and diverse partners to make sure that your project is successful. And now I'm going to give the word to Gilles for the presentation of the Knowledge Alliances. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. I imagine most of you were here yesterday for the session that I gave on Knowledge Alliances. Some of you presented project on Knowledge Alliances last year. Nobody? Okay, intend to present some in the future. Well, I hope so. So, when we talk about key factor for success to present a proposal, what has been said by Daphne apply to knowledge alliances also. Respect the 5 pillars, to be linked with EU policies, make sure you have impact, dissemination, etc. So what I would like to do very briefly is to look at knowledge alliances and give you some ideas of what has been done in terms of project. I would like to invite you, because I will not explain project in detail, this is complex and there is a lot of elements in each of these projects, but just give you little ideas of what these people are doing and why it's interesting. So I would invite you, if you have more interest in this specific project or the one we have selected, to go to the website of the agencies where you have full description of the partnership methodology, expected result, etc. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, the idea is when we talk about knowledge alliance is how we can make innovation getting out of university and the business sector and make them work together in that direction. So as I mentioned also yesterday, these are some of the key features that has to be implemented through the project. Most of the project will focus on specific issues or a mix of these ones. What is fundamental is to boost the innovation. What is crucial is to make sure that we develop, as I mentioned yesterday, in any faculties, that mindset of entrepreneurship. We know that the market is evolving a lot. More and more, we will have, and youth will have to create their own job. And there is imagination and there is innovation in higher education to do that. We're not, I don't think, going to live in a world where you will be employees at the same time for the rest of your life. People will have to create their own sector and their own domain and be marketable. The whole idea of the project also is to make sure that that alliance that will be created during the 3 years and they will have worked together will have concrete direct impact and continue after the end of the project. And we'll talk later on how some do that. I just put that slide, the one I have yesterday, just to tell you that this is on the submitted project we had. This is the composition of the partnership. On the 3 projects that I will identify, we respect about that composition of the partnership because we have one project which has 14 partners, which has identified already one of his main challenges will be how to make sure we keep everybody on board during the whole period of the project. So we have one which has 14 partners, which is a high number of partners to manage a consortium. All of them has, however, be involved in European project, even if they were not in that same project. We have another one which has 8 partner, member of the consortium, which is the real average of the proposal we receive, and one, and I use it by purpose, one has the minimum, because every year when we're asked what is the best recipe to build up a partnership, well, ideally you have a certain number, and minimum is not the best requirement, but still because of this specific partner, which have all of them a serious network. So the number of effective partners, even if it corresponds to the minimum, it was an extended partnership in terms of rayonnance. Okay? Now, if we look at the subject area, each of these projects touch at the same time various areas. Being ICT, being digital component, being competency recognition through ECTS or to EGVET, being linked with enterprise, small enterprise, industries, etc. On each of the projects, you will have all these components and subjects put together. We had a meeting with the project coordinator at the executive agencies. We do that every year on every selection. So this year we have the 10th coordinator of the selected project. As you know, what Daphne said earlier, it's not the same. The project has a bigger magnitude, but the number of projects we select according to the project is extremely limited compared to the strategic partnership. However, the idea is to build over the 7th year 150 alliance. So it means that budget increasing year after year. We intend we will be able to select from 15 to 20 projects for the coming years. Now, when we have these coordinators at the meeting in Brussels, just for the sake of the discussion, we have asked them, well, since you have started to develop your ideas and you present your project, and since the 6 months that you are on board with your partner, what would be the key words to express what you have been through? It was amazing. This is, well, creation, innovation. At the beginning, we had a great idea, and he says, well, we're going to make it. And then, difficulties to set up the partnership. We have to survive until the finishing of the design. And then it's resilient. How we can make sure that we can keep on and continue and grow all together. So they've been through all these phases in order to be selected. So don't worry if you face these difficulties when you try to set up a partnership. What's important is needs and benefit. We have put more emphasis this year asking to the consortium to try to explain in their proposal and to define for themselves what's in for me. What do I get out as an institution, a higher institution? What do I get out to participate to that consortium, to that knowledge alliances? Same thing for companies, NGOs, enterprise, which are involved in this project. They have to make sure, how will I get something out of it? And when we had last year, on the pilot project of Knowledge Alliance that has been started 2 years ago, we had the members of the consortium which come from the business sector. One of the idea, which was in the air, it was, well, the fact that they are co-financed, the enterprise will be attracted to participate to a project. And surprisingly, this is not much interested us in terms of budget that you give to us. It's what will we benefit from it if we invest human resources to participate to the project. So the idea is that university and enterprise constantly being in touch and involved with the educator during the project. Courses and curricula need to be connected to the reality. University, and it was important, it was mentioned many times by the coordinator, university need to participate to the project, need staff that has both academic and working life experience to connect with enterprise and to understand their needs, because deadline for university and deadline for enterprise does not have the same impact, for example. Now, beside the key factor that has been highlighted by Daphne, we've been told by the coordinator that key elements in terms of communication in Knowledge Alliance are a bit different, because university and enterprise has to find their ways in terms of communication, and enterprise we're saying, well, they need to be tailor-made communication, action-oriented, prioritize tasks, select appropriated communication tools. Academic can send a 10, 15-page document to explain their idea. Staff in the enterprise won't read 20, 30 pages. Some give the idea, they were sending short 4 minutes video, which were much more efficient than sending paper or long text to the enterprise. Enterprise which get involved are scared about the paperwork. So we have to make sure that at the coordination level, you have the staff from university or from the coordination institution who will deal with all administrative aspects in order to make sure that enterprise will be free of this aspect. Now, let's look briefly. I've just selected three projects in various sectors. I selected them because they were a bit different in terms of outcomes, outputs, and just want to highlight the idea they have. So we have that one which has 14 partners. Textile and clothing knowledge alliances. So the idea is to modernize higher education system in the field of textile and clothing. The idea is to build together a curricula for new manager who work in clothing for exporting, marketing, innovation, sustainability of enterprise. So you will have a MOOC created, which will be accessible at any time, at any moment, for the people working already in the sector of the textile, and developed by jointly by enterprise and textile and staff of university. The second one, which is amazing, is in the key word, it's a European Network of Design for Resilient Entrepreneurship. And the key word being resilient. I mean, they were telling us the challenge is to explode myth, like to grow, you have to go to USA. In US, you can easily find venture capitalists. Failure and risk-taking, the two sides, act globally, etc. So what they try to do is to make sure that, once again, what they try to do is to make sure that all these small companies that have the difficulties to survive the second year. So how can we accompany these companies and these new startups to make sure that they will go over the first phase and grow rapidly? So they'll have contact with startup company, enterprise, university, etc. The last one is the one which I will tell you a small anecdote. It's science. It's a European University Business Alliance to foster young scientists' entrepreneurial spirit. The idea is it's at PhD level. And it's and I take that one because it's relatively rare that we have these type of project at the PhD level. The idea is at PhD level, most of the people think their career in terms of research only. And the idea of that project is to make sure that the student realize that their finding can be marketable and they can start their own company or their own business. And discussing with and these projects are dedicated to students in science, mathematics, science, and engineering. And I was discussing with the coordinator, I said, what do you mean exactly? He said, you know, we're dealing with, in bracket, very brilliant people at that level. They are very creative, they have excellent ideas, but they don't know how to market it. So I said, well, could you give me a concrete, very concrete, easy to understand example? And the example he gave to me is amazing. We all have smartphone. And smartphone is our connection to the world now. I mean, much more than the PC. We always have it with us. We can communicate on various ways with our smartphone. But it has a very anachronic component, which is the battery. I mean, you can communicate with the whole world with videos, with video conference, etc., sending mail, etc., with your smartphone, but it has a life of a battery of 24 hours, roughly. You have to always be ready to plug it and to connect it somewhere, which is totally in contradiction with the fact that you can walk free without any connection and be connected to the rest of the world. So how a brilliant technician, engineer can deal with something like that? He says, well, some are working now on a project, you know, with, using IT, engineering, mathematician, etc., multidisciplinary team, to make sure that you connect, that your smartphone, your battery will recharge with your movement during the day, like the watch in the 50s that you were walking. So it's one of the idea to say how good idea can be marketable, and instead of working only in the research, to be able to start up your companies and your enterprise with that. So that's why I thought it was interesting to mention that project. So on the website of the agency, you have the 10 selected projects for the 2014, and you have on the compendia, and later on with the commission, another platform will be there to show all project results, which we call Valor. But so far you have the compendia, where you will find all these selected projects, where you have a list of objectives, main outcomes, composition of the partnership. And at the same time, it's a partner search. If you have an idea, if you want to know what others are doing in the field you're working, it's a good place to go. Now, if we sum up the expected result of all these projects selected in 2014, we have most of the elements mentioned earlier by Daphne. The creation, elaboration of EU curricula with advanced entrepreneurial and managerial skills. what is very important, develop flexible device for validation, transfer, and recognition of entrepreneurship skills. New method of teaching and learning in its open platform, MOOC, be accessible at any time for anybody. Believing that at the end of the project, we will increase university impact on their local environment, develop innovative approach for new entrepreneur education and support, aim at increasing the resilience and competitiveness of European startups. So when we have that meeting with the coordinator, keyword were identify how to make sure that things gonna work. Keys of success in a business-university relation. Keyword were trust, respect, be capable since day one to identify common interest, and full commitment and trust again. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. You can stay there for the questions since you need to go because of your flight. So we'll give you the chance to answer the question now and then move to Daphne.
So if you have questions that I can help to answer, we'll do it now because I have to leave. Well, thank you. And don't hesitate to contact us at the executive agencies. If you need more information, there is a functional mailbox of the Knowledge Alliances, and we'll be ready to answer all your queries. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much. If there are any questions about strategic partnership, Daphne is here to answer you. There is a microphone just close to you.
All right. No? Yeah, it does. Oh. All right. Talking about the success rate of the strategic partnerships mainly, is this something you wanted to achieve? All right. Say it other words. Are you happy with the vast majority of the institutions preparing projects for nothing at the end, for no return? Is this something you are happy with?
Can you please speak slowly?
No, I'm talking about a success rate, all right, being close to 10%. So the vast majority of the institutions are preparing the projects for nothing. So it's just a wasting of time and work. Is this something you are happy with, and is this something you are going to address somehow? Thank you.
All right, thank you for your question. I was kind of expecting it. Well, actually, this, as you know, this is a new action in a new program, and the fact that we have decentralized the projects that before were only at centralized level, and when they were at centralized level, we couldn't fund as many as we can do now. We didn't know what the results would be. We definitely decentralized it because we thought that we would create more interest and more encouragement in the institutions to apply to their national agency. Because we saw in the past that for many institutions it was a bit, let's say, scary to apply at central level. So of course we did it to make sure that we are closer to you and that we do get your projects. Now, maybe we did not expect so many applications, so the fact that the success rate is lower than everybody expected, I understand created some frustrations. But I think it's also a sign that the move that we did to decentralize these projects did create more interest from the institutions. And as Vanessa said yesterday, there will be an increase in the budget in the coming years, and we have addressed it with the education ministers and with the other, with the relevant authorities, because we understand that there are very valuable projects and they should not have been submitted for nothing, as you said. So we think it's still very good. And while I encourage you to rework on your application if it has not been successful, taking in mind some of the examples you saw here about what made the project a successful one, we also made sure that we raise it at the right levels because, of course, we would like to give more opportunities for your projects to be selected.
Any other questions?
Yes, there's one.
Yes. I have also a question about the strategic partnerships. I enjoyed to see some of the examples you presented. And I wonder about the dissemination, because in the former lifelong learning program, which is still running, the multilateral projects, at least coordinators were invited to networking meetings and were aware what other coordinators, what other projects were going on in their area. Now, I just saw from your examples that actually we are completely unaware what people in other countries from the other national agencies are working on, and I think that would be a pity if, you know, groups are working on the same thing which are knowing from each other only by coincidence, maybe on a conference, maybe on an occasion like here you get a chance to hear that. But do you plan anything to re-stimulate this networking which existed in the past, and or maybe to include new measures of dissemination in that area?
Yeah, actually my colleagues in charge of strategic partnerships are now working, because the problem is that so far not in every country, unfortunately, the projects signed the grant agreement at the same time. So it took some time for us to finally receive the final list of projects, as actually you are quite aware of. So I know that they are compiling a compendia, because it would be very interesting indeed for everybody to see what other kind of projects are there. And of course, we always encourage national agencies as well to exchange information to make sure that, again, there can be some synergy, but I will definitely keep it in mind as a point for my colleagues, for my reporting back, that more networking, maybe for projects funded in the same area or field or with the same tools, would be needed. So thank you for your suggestion.
Any other question or comments? No? Okay, once again, thank you very much, Daphne, for your presentation and the answer of the question.
Okay, thank you very much. I will still be around in case you have any questions. Thank you.
Before we move to the next session, let me announce two changes on the program, the timetable. The first one, the session titled Prepare to Work, will start at 20 past 10 to 40 past 10 at room H202. And the second change, the workshop titled International Team Projects and Red and Virtual, it will start at 40 past 10 until 20 past 11 at the same room, at the room H202. Now let's continue with the next session. I would like to invite in the floor the chair of the next session, Sylvain Lamourte, representative of EIEE, and also the two speakers apart from me, Drain Lenman, a policy officer for international action of European Commission, and my colleague Marcello Scalisi, executive director of UNIMED. So I'll move the chair to the new president, friend you can mention that.
Okay.
And to the people, because it's going to be an open dialogue on the website
Okay.
of our organization in order to participate. This is a step of dialogue.
Okay.
You have a presentation, and then we have a very short introductory discussion, and then the first presentation. Yes, yes.
So Mrs. Lenman is beginning.
Yes.
Who's the second one?
She's beginning, and then me, and then Marcelo, and then the discussion.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Sylvain Amouret. I'm work at the University of Rouen at the European Projects Unit. And I'm here as the EIE representative. So first of all, thank you for your presence to this session entitled Cooperation with the South Mediterranean Area, or WELS, for an Integrated EU Mobility, which is a session that has been proposed to the EIE for the next conference in Glasgow to be held between the 15th and the 18th of September. And as precised by the president of the European Association of Erasmus Coordinators, this session is a kind of a first step towards next session in Glasgow. So to present topics, issues, programs, tools on cooperation with South Mediterranean, but it's also a step for dialogue between you and us, so to enrich the further session with topics of interest for you. So just a few words about the EIE, in case you've missed the information about this big association, proposing this big conference, which aiming sort of training updates on EU policies in international cooperation, an association which has its organization as any association, but also counts on expert communities. And I'm more a representative here of MOPILE, which is management of program. Within this expert community has been chosen and evaluated this session to be part of next conference. So about the topic today, we have three speakers. Miss Deirdre Lenman, who is working at the European Commission, at the DG Education and Culture, in charge of policy with Africa. Mr. Karambolos Chrysostomou from Cyprus University of Technology, in charge of international research more particularly, but also Vice President of the EAC. And finally, Marcello Scalisi, who will present the network, wide network of universities all around the Mediterranean area called UNIMED. So before commencing, just a few words about the definition of the area. What is the South Mediterranean area? Some years ago, a French journalist had this comic show on TV going to the south of France, to Marseille, asking people, where does the north begin? And in Marseille, people were saying, oh, the north begins in Valence. And so he went to Valence, and in Valence he asked, where does the north begin? And in Valence, people say, the north begins in Lyon. And in Lyon, again, he went there, and the people were answering in Dijon. So this geographical area has maybe to be defined. For our topic today, the south of the Mediterranean area will be from Morocco to Syria, and Europe will be not only southern countries of Europe, but obviously the whole Europe, even though the cooperation with the South Mediterranean area is maybe of more interest for southern countries or in historical point of view. So our speakers will, maybe I will give this, the floor to the speakers, and commencing by Mrs. Lenman, who will talk about things you have heard already, but it's maybe very important to be reminded, mostly about international credit mobility, about what happened with the Erasmus Mundus project, and of course with the Tempus project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. What I'd like to illustrate today is the fact that we're not starting from zero here, and cooperation with the Southern Mediterranean has been existing for many years. We have, many of the member states have bilateral programs. We have Erasmus Mundus, the program, the Tempus program, and we have quite a lot of activities in what we call policy dialogue. So that would be the dialogue between the European member states, the European Commission, and countries, authorities from the region. And now we have Erasmus+. I want to work backwards. So there in the presentation I showed you the past all the way to Erasmus+, but I thought the best is to actually start with the present situation. So that's going to put things into context. And the present situation is what we've seen with the international credit mobility. So the 2014 call last year, it's the first time that it was actually open to international partners across the world. And the first call, we got quite a significant response. So there were 1,187 applications, so varying from the States, Latin America, Bangladesh, Morocco, South Africa, and in total. No? What we did see is that all what we call the regional budgets. So we have budgets that are covering Latin America, that are covering the South Mediterranean, that are covering Asia, developing Asia, etc. And what we've seen is that there was an oversubscription generally. We were expecting that. We don't have that much money. But what we also noticed is that across Europe, across the program countries, is that there was an uneven distribution in terms of who's working with whom across the world. Just to give you an idea on the response vis-à-vis of the Southern Mediterranean region, which is the one we're we're talking about in this session. You'll see here that the highest response has been with Israel, Morocco, Tunisia and Egypt. Not surprisingly, big countries. We have obviously Syria 1% at the moment. It's not particularly easy to implement projects there. And Libya, I'm wondering what that 0% is, because if it's 0, it shouldn't actually be there. But obviously very little reaction there. But you can see, I think, there which are the main countries in terms of response to the first call for international credit mobility. Here you're going to see in this slide, what you see is how we're going to manage to spend the money, okay, across the different regions of the world. So these are what I called before the regional envelopes. There you can see that ENP South, we're not actually going to be able to spend all the money, and that's problematic. So I'll explain a little bit what the solution is there. But you can see, so some of the more traditional partners of European universities, so in the industrialized countries, US, Canada, in Asia, China, India, some of the big countries there, have 100%. I mean, all the funding will be spent there. Latin America also, very strong response there. We have a difficulty also because this is where the biggest budgets are. As you know, the European Union, in response to the Arab Spring, made available quite a significant budget for the southern Mediterranean and also for Eastern Europe, of course, all the neighboring region of Europe. So that's where the biggest budgets are. And there you can see that we're going to have problems absorbing the funds there, at least for the credit mobility action. Okay, so this is the message I'm giving you to here. This is a slide that Vanessa showed yesterday, which gives you an idea. So if you look at the first column there, we're talking about the Mediterranean again, the southern Mediterranean. And there you can see that there are some countries which have not managed, which will not manage as it stands to absorb all the budget that has been made available for the southern Mediterranean. So we're talking here in particular of the UK, we're talking of Ireland, we're talking about Poland, the Netherlands. They're the big countries, so to say, and then you have a mix of other countries which have some little remaining amounts left over. So the decision there of what was decided was that there's going to be a second call this year, okay, that's going to go out over the summer. So the application form is going to be made available in July, and applications will be expected in September. Now, not all member states, not all program countries, are actually going to open this call. Those who've spent the money, no problem, that's then done for this year. Those countries that haven't absorbed all the money for some of these regions are going to do dedicated calls for those regions. Okay, so in September, in some program countries, you can expect this call to be out, and we'll be looking for applications with the southern Mediterranean area. What I wanted to now highlight to you is just how much experience and how much cooperation there is already. Somehow this contrasts with the message that we've received on the credit mobility. On the international credit mobility, we've seen that there seems to be some wariness vis-à-vis working with the southern Mediterranean region, but on the other hand, we see through the previous programs that there's been extensive cooperation, and so that's something we're wondering about at the moment. For instance, under Erasmus Mundus, here I've given you some statistics for participation there. So when we're talking about the last call for the joint degrees, the Erasmus joint degrees, we see that we've got institutions from Morocco in this case, who are partners in the joint masters, and we've got students from the region who've been selected for scholarships. Note, Syria is in fact the highest number there, with 45 students from Syria being selected from for the scholarships for the joint masters. We have the doctoral programs, the ones that are still running, which again have selected fellows from Egypt and Tunisia. They're top, sort of on the range there. And in the former program, the joint degrees always, We have Algeria, Israel, and Lebanon who are full partners in the joint degrees, and we've had approximately 600 student scholarships, 150 scholars. Again, you're seeing the same sort of the top rankers are still often the same. So Egypt, Tunisia, Israel, Algeria will come next generally. And then we have the Action 2 partnerships. The Action 2, Erasmus Mundus Action 2 partnerships were consortia of universities getting together and organizing mobility, in this case north-south, between themselves. And you see here we've got quite a significant number of students at all levels and staff that have been undertaking mobility with universities across Europe. 6,300 over, we're talking since 2007 here, so over a 7-year period, through different selections, different lots. But what is interesting to see is that all levels are involved, so we've already got undergraduate mobility taking place there, so that means there's already a practice in terms of mobility which is leading to credits, which is leading to the obtention of a degree. Then we also have the degree-oriented type of mobility there, and we have the staff mobility. So these are all elements that have been picked up in the new credit mobility action, and there's already plenty of experience there. We also have some action, what used to be called Erasmus Mundus Action 3 projects, which these were projects that were sort of valorizing cooperation activities. I've just put 3 there, but that's just to give you examples, like they can be cooperation projects which are oriented on curriculum design, setting up networks. I think the last one is probably interesting because that just shows to what extent, you know, cooperation can also touch upon other issues which are innovation, linking up with research, and cooperation in a wider sense than just in a limited discipline or subject area, and I thought that was interesting to show. Tempus, the Tempus program has been running for many, many, many years. The Southern Mediterranean region joined in 2004. Libya was the last country to join. And here, over the period 2003-2012, you can see quite a significant amount of budget was made available for Tempus, and the project distributes the share of funding in terms of projects. Egypt, very strong partner, Morocco, Jordan, Tunisia, Lebanon also. And these types of projects, Tempus, I think, has really formed the basis for what would be undertaken in the international credit mobility now. I mean, through Tempus, through these cooperation projects, there's been a strong emphasis on staff development in universities across the Southern Mediterranean region. What we've seen is that the training, the professional development activities were not just limited to certain academics, but spread across the whole field to academic staff, to administrative staff, technicians, such like, and we've seen a very high participation, of women in these Tempus projects. And what we've also seen is sort of a change in dynamics within the institutions concerned, whereby, how can I put it, hierarchical barriers sometimes, which made participation very formal and quite difficult to process, has significantly changed. Coordinators of projects are given responsibility to undertake these projects, and the teams around them are also sort of built up to be able to manage the cooperation. Curricular reform, the Tempus projects have actually done a significant amount of work in supporting the introduction of the 3-cycle system in Northern Africa in particular, but in the Southern Mediterranean region as a whole. They've been testing credit ECTS type systems. They've been looking at quality assurance, at transparency tools in different ways, and there are a number of joint degrees being established. So all these kind of projects will support the type of activities that need to take place then in the exchanges and the mobility under the international credit mobility. We've also seen very dynamic projects, for instance, setting up doctoral studies, reinforcing the links with the labour market. And again, as I mentioned, also at national level, these projects have been pushing reform at national level. We've had a number of ministers from the region which have attended this week's Bologna Policy Forum, which is the sort of the forum attached to the Bologna ministerial meetings for non-Bologna countries. But there is this constant interest in what's happening in Europe, and the possibilities of sharing experience with European universities between the two sides, or even country to country, helps because it allows to exchange practices and understand better what might be the challenges then for implementing quality mobility between the two, north and south. This is Tempus, as you know, EduLink and Alpha have been replaced by what we call the capacity building in higher education action under the new Erasmus Plus program. There you can see we have no problem. Southern Mediterranean countries, so this will be the follow-up to what they knew as Tempus, has been particularly responsive, so we'll have no problem spending the money there. They've continued to apply. Okay. We also have, this is the final point I wanted to make, we also have an extensive policy dialogue with the Mediterranean region, the southern Mediterranean region, which mainly sort of got an extra dynamic to it after the Arab Spring. In 2011, there were 2 communications, basically underlining the importance of education and exchange to respond to challenges in the region. We see that there are different demographic challenges in Europe and in the southern Mediterranean, but what is common to both is youth unemployment, and that is critical for the southern Mediterranean region, and I think that is really where in Europe we need to put our efforts. It's to support universities across the southern Mediterranean in making labour responsive skilled study programs, entrepreneurship, innovation, quality assurance across higher education there. During this policy dialogue, what we do is we share opportunities programs, so we inform the authorities about what's happening in Europe. We would bring in, for instance, the ENICs and the NARICs, who could explain then to the quality assurance and accreditation agencies in the southern Mediterranean side, explain how things are working so that there's more understanding of what is at stake on both sides. Then universities will obviously, through the collaboration, will explain issues related to grading, assessment criteria, student performance, credits, learning outcomes and such like. So all this is sort of the basis for and a sound basis, I think, for cooperation with the southern Mediterranean region. So just to give you an idea of the budgets that we have for Erasmus Plus for the coming period, these are the budgets for the southern Mediterranean, okay? So we're looking here at 155 million euro. So that will cover approximately 26,000 mobility flows under the international credit mobility. If you remember that slide on Action 2, which was more or less comparable, over a 7-year period we had 6,000, and now over a 6-year period we're going for 26,000. This is why we need European universities' support on this action. We've seen that the first call didn't necessarily have the response that we were expecting for the southern Mediterranean. So there our message to you is please pick up your relationships with universities in the southern Mediterranean and apply for credit mobility actions. The basis is there. The universities in the region know perfectly well what they have to do. We have additional windows there for the joint degrees. So we're going to be able to fund approximately 380 scholarships. In addition to the students that get selected because they're the best, we also have dedicated funding just for students from that region. 380 scholarships. And for the capacity building, so the follow-up to the Tempus, ex-Tempus program, we'll be able to fund approximately 215 projects for the southern Mediterranean region over the next period. I think we'll be leaving these slides with you. So I'm responsible for Africa, but in fact Claire Herman, my colleague, is responsible for the southern Mediterranean region specifically, so I've given you her email there. The Erasmus Plus national agencies would be your first port of call. And I would also recommend that you get into contact with the national Erasmus Plus offices in our partner countries. So each of the southern Mediterranean countries, at least I think all of them, have what used to be called the Tempus offices and now are the national Erasmus Plus offices, and they can give you plenty of details. They can link up the universities. And then we have the executive agency, another port for call for capacity building and for the joint degrees. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before my neighbor's presentation, just a word about a document you may have already or you will have soon, on which you have information, basic information about you, and any topics or issues you would like to raise also during the summer before the conference, in addition to this session. Thank you.
Right, before I share with you my thoughts about the way the Southern Mediterranean countries can involve and engage the Erasmus Plus program, I would like to say that we strongly believe that the three organizations, UNIMED organization represented by my friend Marcelo, and the EAEI organization, as well as the Erasmus Coordinator organization, can support and can be the bridge in order to enhance all the activities and all the projects can be achieved through the Erasmus Plus, emphasizing in the South Mediterranean countries. Now, speaking about Southern Mediterranean area, it is important to point out the countries in order to have in mind with that, in which area we are going to cooperate under the Erasmus Plus. As it is mentioned before in Ms. Lena's presentation, we are speaking about Algeria, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Libya, Palestine, Syria, Tunisia, and Israel. It's obvious that in a lot of these countries there are a lot of political problems and unstable situation, which are the main barrier of involving these countries in the Erasmus Plus and the other European project. It is important also to mention, and it was presented by the figures Ms. Lennon presented before, what was the situation in participating in these countries in the previous programs, the Erasmus Joint Program, the Scholarship, the Mobility, and the Tempus Program. As it was mentioned before, up to 138 Erasmus Joint Program in master level are participated from those countries. The countries did well in the previous program was Egypt, Tunisia mainly, but countries such as Libya, Syria, and Palestine, for obvious reasons, didn't do it a lot. Coming to the scholarship, up to 6,200 scholarships were given. Now we can go up to 27, so there is a lot of field we can cover on this area. At the same time, the Tempus program did very well in staff and institutional level. Now, coming to the future, I would like to mention a list of things we need to take into consideration in order to have a clear idea about that area. The first one, and the most obvious one, is the political situation in this country, and especially the instability in this area. Countries such as Syria, Libya, and Palestine, the situation is very unstable, and a lot of EU institutions think a lot before to start a partnership with these countries. At the same time, we should take into consideration the financial and economic boundaries for the students from this area. This is a very important factor and is one of the main constraints and barriers. Don't allow students from this country to try to come to European institution. The third one, related to the first two, is the security issues, both from European students who want to visit these countries and vice versa. I would like to underline a very sensitive and crucial issue referring to the brain drain. We should always have in our mind that those students who are coming from this country, coming to European institution, in order to gain experience, knowledge, and education, to go back to their countries, to help their countries in the attempt for social and economical development. So Europe is not the ultimate goal for those students, is just a step to go back to their countries, to give their countries back what they earned from Europe. Apart from that, and I was speaking with my friend Marcelo before about that, we should underline the role of the South European countries, because they are closer to their countries and they can facilitate and support the attempt to participate in the new program. These countries, not only because they are closer, but in the way of thinking and the mentality is closer to that countries. Let me tell as a joke, when I was a student, I have an Italian friend. I am a Cypriot, and he was joking at me, telling that, are you consider yourself as a South Mediterranean, a South European, or a North African? I think, Marcelo, you can share the same idea. So it's very important to have in mind that through all these activities and through all this project, the main goal, the main purpose is to strengthen the democracy and the economical development of this country through a common project with European institutions. By closing my short speech, I would like to raise some questions, because I consider this round table, this dialogue today, as another step in the policy dialogue in order to formulate the best projects for these people. The first one is how can we build strong partnership between EU institution and South Mediterranean institution in order to take advantage of the new Erasmus Plus program. The second one is how can we promote quality programs in the area of European higher education area. It's very important to have quality programs, and the role of European institutions is very important to this direction. The third one has to do with the financial aspect and barriers. In what practical ways we can overcome the financial and the economical barriers in this area. And another two questions. The next one is in what ways we can find common interests between European institution and South Mediterranean institution, and at the same time in what ways we can handle the vulnerable group of this area, especially the students who are coming for an unstable political situation. Thank you very much. I think we have time to continue later on during the dialogue.
Thank you very much for the first food for thought for the further discussion. And now I would ask Dr. Marcello Scalesi to present us the UNIMED network. Thank you.
Thank you. It's quite easy and interesting to me to talk about Mediterranean, because it's our daily job. UNIMED is a network of universities coming from Europe and southern Mediterranean countries. We have in our network 95 universities coming from 24 countries. The countries that are based in South Europe, from Portugal to Greece, and obviously all southern Mediterranean countries. But we have also some strange participation from North Europe, like, for example, Finland. I was at Tampere University 2 weeks ago. They are a very strong member of UNIMED, and they also promote the North-North cooperation, North Europe, North Africa cooperation. It's not another point of view very interesting. They are very active with southern Mediterranean countries. But now we have also some countries from the Gulf, from Oman and also the Emirates, that are interested to cooperate with European universities, and why not also with the other southern Mediterranean universities. We worked a lot in the last years about mobility, because we consider mobility a key factor not only for internationalization, but also the long-term way to solve most of the problem of southern Mediterranean countries and European. We have common problems, obviously, discussing about water, discuss about, for example, desertification, energy, and many others. But at the moment, the main problem is not the technical things, but the political situation. As my friend said, there are a lot of issues, a lot of problems related to the political situation, instability, and so on. And in this particular moment, I think that, and where Europe is thinking to do more, I believe that the university have to play a role in this, not only related to the mobility issues, but at the political level. I worked in the last years very hard with the colleagues of the European Commission, with Claire Herman, Claire Morel, and so on, with Jordi Curel, the former director, about the issues of mobility, how to improve mobility for southern Mediterranean countries. It seems that the new program, the Erasmus Plus, and then I try also to answer to your question, but first about the Erasmus Plus, because the presentation that you show us is very interesting and explain us that the interest in capacity building is very strong, but in the mobility is not the same. Because the new formula of mobility with the southern Mediterranean countries is interesting, is a challenge, but it's new. It's based on a bilateral dimension. It's very important, but at the same time, if the European university is not interested or is not used to have a mobility program or a relationship for mobility with southern Mediterranean countries, they don't apply. They don't ask for money, they don't ask for bourses and so on. In the Erasmus Mundus consortium was completely different. It's a short group of universities and so on that decide what they have to do, etc. I think that we have to improve this framework of mobility, but not because it's interesting for internationalization of the European universities. It's not because you receive some funds from the national agency, but because we have to do this to help our partner of southern Mediterranean countries and in some way to help young students to find new opportunities. Because the figures of unemployed people are very high. We have more or less the same problem as you mentioned. The European Mediterranean countries and Southern Mediterranean have more or less the same problems. But the situation at the same time is not possible to compare. I am more Mediterranean probably than you, because I'm surely North Africa, because I'm Sicilian by origin, you know. And I assure you that traveling for all these countries, next week I will be in Morocco, I was in Tunisia 1 month ago, and so on. The situation of young people and also the difficulties of the universities are unbelievable. The massive access of students at the university is enormous. The figures of students are enormous, and they don't find a job. They don't find opportunities. There are not voluntary job, internship, and so on. And I hope that soon the Commission will open the internship part of the Erasmus Plus mobility for third countries. This means that the university have to play a role more related to the political issues than the business and the strategy about what they have to do to improve the university at the European dimension and so on. There is another very important factor that could give us, all of us, a very important role of this. The European Commission launched a consultation to review the neighborhood policy, inviting people and obviously stakeholders to give their contribution to revise, to rewrite the neighborhood policy. You know the situation, as was mentioned before, of Syria, Palestine, Libya. We have now in our network finally the one university from Libya was the first one, the Sirte University. For the Libyan universities, we submitted 2 projects in capacity building on 5 projects that were submitted in total. It's an enormous effort from our network. And the situation in Libya is obviously out of control. And I think that the instruments that the Commission has at the moment are very interesting instruments, the mobility issues, the capacity building, the Marie Curie mobility, and many others. But I think that we are in a particular situation, and we need particular efforts from the Commission. Probably we need not only more money, surely more money, but also we need to test and to try new formula of mobility. We are working, for example, in a project that we presented yesterday. It is a project financed with another program of Mediterranean cooperation. The program is MP, and the project is MedMobil. Why not to try to have other mobility issues, not only higher education, but also internship, young entrepreneurship, or short mobility for a representative of local actors like municipality and so on, because we need to improve more and more the relationship between NGO, local actors, universities, students, young organizations, and so on, to create more networks between this very important region of the world. Well, now to try to answer to your question, I think that we have to work on the policy, on the relevance of the policy, because to improve the partnership between Europe and Southern Mediterranean countries, sometimes the university, and not only the university, look at the money. If you look at the money, following the new rules of Erasmus Plus is not quite interesting, to be honest. Because the capacity building, for example, is completely different than Tempus. The budget is reduced. It's easier to manage, but it's less budget. If you see the budget, probably you don't apply. In fact, the first call, probably they arrived at more 500 projects, more or less, in total, yes. But they were expected 1,000. This means something. Probably it's the first call, okay, and people have to be used to apply and so on. But in my opinion, I think that The main question is, the main problem is that the budget is completely different, it's low than the past, is easier to manage, but if you see the total, you think that is not quite interesting. To solve this problem, we have to invite the university to consider the political dimension of this particular region of the world, because I see the interest of the Arab universities, the Arab countries, to work with the Europeans universities, but I don't see the same, at the same level, vice versa. I don't know if you have projects with Southern Mediterranean countries. What do you think about it? I'm curious to know your opinion. How many difficulties you find in cooperate with the Southern Mediterranean? Difficulties at any level, administrative, or recognition of credits and so on. We have a project, for example, in Tunisia, Tempus project on journalism, cross-media journalism. It's very, very interesting. For the first time, 3 Tunisian universities decided to have a joint master course. But to do this is unbelievable, because there are a lot of, it's more than competitive approach from this university. And I think that to improve the partnership, first we have to work on the policy dimension. About the quality, I believe that I worked many times, many meetings with DG Education, and they, in particular the international dimension, obviously, they are very active, and they believe absolutely in this framework of cooperation. But to do more and to have more, we have to involve the Parliament. The Parliament play a role the European Parliament play a role very, very important. And each university, each national conference of rectors and so on, could invite their representative at the European Parliament to discuss about this. This sort of approach, that is in some way bottom-up approach, is absolutely important, and I believe in this kind of approach because it works absolutely. I said something about the financial issues. We need surely more money as budget, because the situation is very dramatic for Mediterranean countries, and if we would like to solve some economic problem, we have to do more, and in particular we have to help the countries that are doing with very many difficulties something to solve the situation in the country, like Tunisia, for example, that they are doing in a slow process a very important change of the country, but also other countries. We need more money, but we need also another barrier, very important. There is a lack of information. Until now, there is a lack of information in Southern Mediterranean countries. The national Erasmus officer do a very good job, and I invite you, if you are thinking to submit proposal, to discuss with them, because they know the best universities in the country, they know the priorities, they know everything about the country, but sometimes the universities in Southern Mediterranean countries, they don't know how to apply, how to write a proposal, how to manage a proposal. And I think that the Commission have to do more and more in this. We do what we can as network, but 95 universities, a lot of universities to help, but there is a very important problem of information. And concerning the common interest, there is another very important issue related to the European Commission, then I stop how to select the priorities. This is, from my point of view, is the challenge. If you see the priorities selected by the countries for the most important program, capacity building, the former Tempus, sometimes seems a copy and paste, to be honest. My point of view is this. Sometimes there is some priorities very well addressed and so on, but it's not clear how to define this kind of process. How is defined this kind of process to define priorities? I think that could be better to have a common discussion between European universities, Southern Mediterranean universities and so on, to address to the European Commission, National Erasmus Office and so on, request of new priorities or to improve some priorities or to better define priorities. If you write social science and humanities, you are saying nothing. You are discussing about many, many, many things. We have few money. Every year they could finance for Southern Mediterranean countries 30 projects in capacity building. 30 projects is good than the past, obviously, but it's not enough. The mobility issues for per year will be 4,000 bourses, more or less, per year. That is better than in the past, because if you saw the Erasmus Mundus figures, is 1,000 per year, more or less, is surely better, but it's not enough. If we have this kind of money, we have to be more effective to select good priorities to solve common problems like problems on water, on tourism, why not, and many others. Journalism, that is a very important priority. To have a free journalism means many, many, many other things and so on. But it's very important to invite the university to work together to define priorities and then to apply following the priorities that with a common job they identify. This is my opinion, my suggestion to the Commission, if possible. They listen our voices. This is another very important point, to participate in the debate, because in some way, slowly, in Arabic is shueli, they listen our voice. And it's very important not only to apply, to write proposal, but to discuss daily with our partners, because Europe is based in the Mediterranean. As I said yesterday, if we lose Mediterranean partnership, because we are more interested to Latin America, to Asia, and so on, probably we lose ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like now to ask you if you have any questions, any comments, any opinion, any experience you'd like to share with us, responding to our three speakers.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Lorena and I represent Malta, Paragon Europe. I was wondering if I can ask a question regarding two situations, actually. One of my concerns, because I received a lot of applications, we are a receiving organization for the students across Europe, and not only. And I received a lot of applications from students from Libya and Egypt. But the only barrier, because the willingness of cooperation, there is. The money from European Commission and from Europe, there are. So we have money, we have willingness to cooperate. But there are some barriers that we cannot challenge and we cannot overcome. For example, the visas. And I was wondering if there would be a possibility, because this is from the European Commission, this is the European Commission idea for cooperation with the southern Mediterranean countries. Is there a possibility to implement a new type of visa, which is going to be, I don't know, called like Erasmus visa or something, that, for example, when we have an agreement with a university from Egypt, they will automatically receive permission to travel in Europe without applying for normal visas, because this will this is a time waster and a bureaucracy waster as well. So I think if European Commission would talk to southern Mediterranean governments and agree upon a certain type of visa that will be only under Erasmus Plus, I think we can cooperate in a much easier way. And my second concern is, again, the language barrier. Because even if they are French speakers or English speakers, there are still countries in Europe that speak other languages. For example, German, Italian, I don't know, other languages. So I was wondering if, for example, for Southern Mediterranean countries and students willing to go to Europe to carry out internships or study abroad, actually in Europe, would be there a possibility for them to grant, to fund them, to give them some funds for language courses, or to facilitate them the opportunity to learn the specific language they would like to speak in the country they are going to carry out their placements. Because, as you said before, and these were your words, that they are not very, they do not have a lot of money and opportunities. So if they don't have, then we are the one who should help them. So I think this is what I wanted to say.
Thank you for the two questions. I may be able to answer the two of them, as I'm also the coordinator of an Erasmus Mundus Action 2 program with North Africa. It's true that the visa issue is a problem. Our Libyan students need now to go to Tunisia, usually, to get the visa to come to Europe. But it's not the only problem for Libyan students. For Moroccan students going to Latvia, for example, they have to go through Ankara to get the Latvian visa in Ankara, then to go to Latvia. So yes, the visa issue is a big one, but I don't know where is the state of advancements of the project, but there is a reflection on a European student visa. I've attended a conference last year about that. I don't know what is the state. I guess it's not so easy to put in place, but yes, the thing is under reflection. About the language, I would think it is the responsibility of the institution who is welcoming the student to give these language courses if needed. I was yesterday evening, some of my students from North Africa are in Porto at the moment, and I noticed that all of them have really good Portuguese after 7 months here, and that's also because the University of Porto offers these courses. So I guess in Germany and most of our countries, we offer these language courses. Within Erasmus Mundus, it's true that we have the budget for that. For some other projects, for international credit mobility, I think this is also a requirement, and the university get the money to organize courses for these students. But maybe it was not.
Excuse me, but this is only between universities. But what about other organizations that organize mobilities? For example, for the work placements, and if an Egyptian student would like to carry out an internship in a company and it's not going to take some courses at the university, for example, in Malta, so he has to know English, right? So it's not the University of Malta's responsibility to offer courses. So he has to find some specific courses in the country, in the hosting country, or in the receiving country, or in the sending country. But if we're talking about the Southern Mediterranean countries, maybe there are not enough funds for that, for extra courses. So I was thinking that we as European Union members, we can do something in that case, like offering for these students willing to carry out internships in Europe, offering them opportunities to learn that language funded under the Erasmus grants. I think that would be, because until last year, if I remember well, the language courses were funded under the Erasmus, and now they're not anymore. So they usually drop off. They decline the internships because they do not have money for language courses.
Mrs. Do you want to answer that?
On the let's work backwards, no? On the online language support, indeed, yes. In the past, under the Action 2 arrangements were perhaps made, there was money there. Under Erasmus Plus, it's not. We don't have specific money there. The placements have not been introduced for the international dimension, so it's not an immediate problem we'll face for this call. But normally they're going to be introduced for the following call, so it's definitely something that we have to think about in the grant amounts. So we'll be looking at that. I think at least for common, the most used languages, it's not a problem. It is a problem indeed working in an environment where you might have to speak, the Egyptian might have to have some basic knowledge of Polish, for instance, then there can be problems. But I agree, it would be really within the bilateral partnership between the university in Europe and the Egyptian university that all possibilities are looked at, whether it can be offered by the university that they stop off there first to do the training or blended, online type support and such like. For the type of conversation the student might need just for a short work placement, there are many sort of online courses and things like that. So it'll also be a little bit up to the student to demonstrate their sort of commitment to and engagement there. But we'll definitely have a look at that question. On the other question on the visas, so the visa regulations were being reviewed last year, and there is indeed a proposal to be able to facilitate everything related to obviously Erasmus plus our visiting students, scholars and researchers. That is in progress. It's very complicated because you're depending on national member states' decisions there. This is a recommendation which is made from the European Commission to member states. Whether they do it or not is another issue. Then you have the whole issue of who's in Schengen, who's not. And now we have a third sort of problem which is coming out is how, with the latest migration, migrants, etc., how is the whole sort of picture going to look like? But for the visas, it is work in progress, and I hope we can report on progress at some stage soon. Am I allowed to respond to some of the comments from the colleagues? Thanks. I was just thinking on some of the comments that were made. Indeed, I think the first remark to be made is there is a political issue here on cooperation with the southern Mediterranean. We would support very much that universities, I mean, we have a modernization agenda for European universities, we have an international agenda for universities in Europe, where we're saying somehow that it is a duty of universities also to collaborate with partners in other regions of the world. Here we have an immediate problem. These are our neighbors. These are countries which really need support. We're making available the new program. The review for the neighborhood policy is underway, and please do put your remarks in there because we need to take them into account. What's a little bit complicated, for instance, with Africa, I'm speaking from my work, my daily work. So with Africa, you have a continental integration process which is underway. So you have sort of a political umbrella, which is quite easy. In northern Africa, or at least in the southern Mediterranean region, you don't have a regional process of, they don't have one of their own. So it's quite difficult to find the balance between us Europeans saying you should be doing this, and them themselves saying, we would like to do this like that or like that. So that for instance, for the priority setting, to what extent is it up to us to suggest that they should focus on this or that? It's quite difficult to say because Tunisia has a certain, sense of direction at the moment, working on different things, while Syria obviously has a complete different. So what we do in the Africa context is through the policy dialogue, so through the activities, for instance, the workshop coming up in June or the next workshops, is to feed work which is shared interests on both sides through the policy dialogue, and then that can be reflected in the priorities after that. We do that with South Africa also, so that's a more perhaps easy, approachable way for doing it. On the common interests, I think there are many common interests in terms of subject areas. You mentioned some of them, so water, energy, desertification, tropical health, what else? Health, basically, just pure exemple. But I think where there can be a particular interest, at least I'm seeing that with Africa as a whole, but is on the blended learning and new types of learning. Massification is critical in North Africa. They're having an expansion rate of people knocking at the door of universities, which is just incredible. They don't have the staff, they don't have the money. So they're looking into new methods of teaching. In other regions of Africa, it's the same. And I would like to say that in some cases they have coming up with more innovative solutions than we have in Europe. So there I would like to see sort of collaboration, because I think European universities can benefit there. And perhaps just my final point on I'm taking note of the finance questions, in the sense that there's not enough money. There's money missing, for instance, for the language support and such like. Not all institutions, I think, have the advantage of being in a solid network, which can manage 3 million euro in a capacity, or 2 million euro. Or, I think so the fact that we decreased the money for the capacity building, it's something we can review at midterm in the new phase. But I think to get the thing going up and starting, we need to do it like that. At the moment, it's going to be very difficult to have very big regional projects, because the region is sort of split up into different situations, and to articulate a project where in some cases you're bringing people in because it's too dangerous to go out, in other it's easy, etc. So I think we need to see maybe 1 or 2 selection rounds how the thing is working, and then take the lessons from that. Yeah, thank you.
Approve us some project, and we will give you our feedback.
Any other questions or comments? Yes?
Microphone is coming.
Can you start again, please?
Yes. I represent the University of the Peloponnese in Greece, and so I have a question. Recently, there was an agreement that was put into place between the prime ministers of Greece, Cyprus, and Egypt to be collaborating on enterprise, on, I think, tourism and culture. Now, I'm interested in the cultural part. And so if we have a project of collaboration between Cypriot University and the University in Egypt and our institution, what does that mean, given that this agreement is in place? Are we hoping to get better support on the national level of the Erasmus Plus? Or is this independent? And vice versa, if we have an Erasmus project, does this mean that the Erasmus administration takes note of the fact that the states want to collaborate? So I wonder what the impact of the national will to collaborate has on Erasmus partnerships. Thank you.
Well, I guess it is different according to the program you would apply to, and also what type of fundings you would be asking, because if you ask for double fundings, that wouldn't be possible. So I think that's an asset for a project that your national governments have signed this agreement, but you still have to meet the requirements of the programs you would apply to. I'm thinking of the capacity building one. That couldn't be limited only to Greece and Cyprus. You would have to include some other countries in such a project.
Sorry, I had to be butting in all the time. Indeed, so for capacity building, you'll need to find, you'd always need to match the Erasmus Plus requirements, minimum requirements, eligibility requirements. For the, if you're introducing a credit mobility project, in, where you're focusing on that area, it'll be assessed on its merit. One of its merits being that you have a strategic policy between the countries to support this area. So when we're looking at the credit mobility, one of the 4 areas that's looked at, the first one is called relevance. And under relevance, it's looking where are the interests of the 2 sides to collaborate together. So there you'll be getting an extra point, but it's completely apart from anything related to your national arrangements. But you'd score, that would be 1 point in an advantage for you.
Can I don't want to add some particular related to how submit proposal, but it's very important if in case you submit some proposal that you show this background, that there is an agreement, that there is a work that you have done as at national level or as universities and so on, to define the project, that you are not submitting something starting from the European university that want to apply and look for partners in Southern Mediterranean countries, but that you, at national level, if possible, and the other international university, that you are working all together to define the proposal and so on, if it's mobility issues or if it's a capacity building or something else. It's quite important the background to show at not only at the evaluator, but in some way at the commission that you believe in the priority that you selected in the project and in the network that you are building.
Just another issue, in addition to what the other said, I think we can ask our Ministry of Education, since there is this triple cooperation between the 3 countries, to facilitate the visa procedure between Egypt and the other 2 European countries. It would be an advantage in order to have better results.
Thank you. I think we are right at the end of the session, so I invite you maybe to continue the conversation around a coffee. And I hope to see some of you in Glasgow in September for the follow-up of this session. Thank you very much for your participation.
it's ready. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Because of some sessions that were taking a little bit longer, as well as here, as well as in some other places, we are suggesting to start at 11:50 with our roundtable and enable all people to come back from the coffee breaks or from one side to another side. But we are not motivating you to leave us, so we hope we start all together with some other people at 11:50 with interesting workshop where actually roundtable in which we expect your active cooperation and hope to get better results of those that we have already. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, once again, and welcome to the Praxis 15 Forum, Project Work and Internship, Waste Employability, the Roundtable Project Work and Internship Mind Map that we will plan to talk about it and work on it. Unfortunately, two of our speakers are getting lost in some way, and so we will have more time for a fruitful discussion, I suppose, with you, and this is very important for us. I would like to present two of our speakers, Nuno Escudeiro from Polytechnic Institute of Porto, who was a coordinator of the Praxis Network and is very much involved also in the organization of this year Eracon, as well as Thomas Berger from Institute from Fulda, International Research, and some of you know him already from yesterday. My name is Tatjana Velcer, and I'm coming from the University of Maribor, Slovenia. I was also the Praxis partner, and we are also collecting and using the platform, collecting the projects, having experiences with students, but all this is coming a little bit later. I would like to present you the form, how we will plan to work. First, you will get short, up to 10 minutes presentations for all of us. Each of us is going in different ways of presenting the topics, like virtual mobility projects, then skill training, as well as students with disabilities and widening participation. And after that, we are going to questions and discussion. But while our roundtable has a title, Project Work and Internship Mind Map, we will start with the mind map that will be presented shortly by Nuno before he's starting his presentation on formal learning in virtual mobility projects. You will see soon on the presentation a very basic mind map which can grow up, and we believe that the topics on which we would like to talk today are some that have to be put it on it, and with your help and discussion we expect to get better mind map which will be published as well as on the Praxis webpage as well as on the web pages of this year Eracon conference. So Nuno, please can you shortly present us this map and go further with your non-formal learning in virtual mobility projects.
Thank you, Tatjana. Good morning, everybody. We would like to start to present you one of the outcomes of the Praxis network. So we tried to, while developing the Praxis portal, the online market for project internships for higher education, we have tried also to make a map, an ontology, referring the key aspects related to project internships. What we came about is what I'm very briefly going to introduce you, but something that we would like to take this opportunity to improve with your experience on these areas. So this is the main branch of the ontology. So we have project features on one side and internship features on the other, and we have developed this somehow by including and extending these branches with other concepts that are associated to this. So this is already somehow comprehensive approach. Of course, it won't be possible for you to pay attention to all these features that we have here, but the idea is that after these teaser presentations that we are going to have, we may discuss and identify things that are missing from what we hear, because we know more or less this ontology, and improve it and add it and change some of the aspects that we have here. The final outcome of this roundtable will be made available through the Praxis portal and also through the Eracon website, as Tatiana has already explained us. So I'm trying to expand what we have at this moment. I'm not going into details here on this ontology. This will be made available for you, but just to give you a brief idea of what we have. So this is more or less what we have at the moment, and we'll see if we can improve it during our roundtable. Okay, now I will probably move to a short presentation to give you to talk to you about some experience that we have been practicing with students for the last 6 years. It's an innovative paradigm for project internship courses that promote students' employability by including them in an international team where they have to develop a solution for a problem that is given to them in an initial stage. But this project is being developed by the students. The students from the same team communicate virtually. We have realized, and of course these things have already been repeated over and over since yesterday at Eracon. I think these are more consensual issues in higher education, that students' employability, the characteristics, the competencies that the students should have that allow them to get a job and to keep a good job along their lives is much more than it was a few years ago. So the relevance of the intellectual capital that students have it is still relevant and still important, but when the student wants to get a job, this is just the starting point. The student can apply for a job and is accepted for an interview if he has a good curriculum, but then after that the curriculum is not in the first place to decide who is going to take the job. There are many other skills that are not related to hard skills, not related to technical skills, but related to the so-called soft or transversal skills that have to do with critical thinking and other aspects that companies are expecting from their employers. So employers are no longer people that are waiting for orders to do this and that, but they are expected to push the business also. So this is taking more and more relevance, and there are several studies in the last years that prove this. I'm not going to go into detail into these studies, but there is one in particular I would like to show. So this is a study made in Germany in 2011, where employers have been asked to say what are they looking for when students, fresh graduates, apply for a job, and also to provide information on the criteria that they use to exclude candidates from the job position. And it's interesting to know that if we look to what we are probably most focused on the students' grades, these are something that are really low in the scale of the relevance for the companies. So it's in fact important to have a good curriculum. I'm not saying that students should not have good grades and should not have a good curriculum. That's the first thing that employers look to invite them for the interview. But once this stage is gone, what is really relevant are the soft skills and the way that people, the students, can behave and move in the world, which is not exactly related to the grades that they have in their, from their academic lives. So in fact, what is more important, well, I cannot say what is more important, but it is also very important, all the aspects that are related to the emotional intelligence of the students, to their social capital, the way they can communicate and interact with other people, the way that they look at the problems and with a critical view. This is more and more important, but of course the art skills are the entry point. We can point out several solutions for this, because somehow this might be difficult to manage, because we have 3 years to prepare a bachelor students in the majority of the schools, and these 3 years are overloaded with technical courses, and we must give them this technical expertise. So the way to include these soft skills, I would say that it's more a way that leads us to design innovative teaching paradigms, so that we can the hard skills to the students, but do that in such a way that they can also practice their soft skills. So I think that's a solution for this, aside from the extracurricular activities that are also very good to promote these skills. Students that are involved in music groups like the Tuna that we saw yesterday, students that are involved in volunteering activities, this type of extracurricular activities are very good for the students to practice and to gain these social competences and this emotional intelligence, the way to relate with others. But we may do more, but we may create opportunities for international cooperation, and we may design and prepare innovative teaching paradigms that put students in environments, in learning environments where they are somehow forced to face and to develop these competencies while training their technical, their hard skills, their technical skills. Erasmus is, of course, a good tool to develop this. Students going on Erasmus have the international contact, they are placed in a completely new environment, and of course, these gain a lot from this in terms of employability. And of course, this is supported by the report from the EU from last year, from September, I think, that you are aware about, and gives clear indications on the best position that students going for Erasmus mobility have in regards to their mobility when compared to students that did not go on Erasmus mobility. So we have around 250,000 students going on Erasmus mobility every year, growing every year also, last year it was almost 50,000 from these were doing project internships, so Erasmus placements abroad. So project work and internships are very important pieces of this puzzle. There are many project internship curricular activities. ISEP is very involved and very keen in this type of teaching. So from these that we have here, we have been involved in these in blue. But I would like to mention particularly MUTW. MUTW is a degree, it's a course, a project course that is developed by our students in the last semester, so they have a compulsory capstone project course accounting for 18 ECTS in the informatics department where I come from. And our students have the chance to do this in a company, in a research lab, or to go on MUTW, which is the possibility they have to do their project course in an international team. So we have teams. This year we are running the 6th edition of the course. We have a team of 12 students coming from 6 different universities in Europe that they are all working to develop the same product, but they are working at their home university. So they have one meeting. They had one meeting at the beginning of the semester. This year the meeting was in Paderborn because we have a company in Paderborn that is sponsoring this year edition. We had this first meeting for 3 days where students meet each other and they get aware of the project specification. Then they go to their home universities for the semester. They communicate using group web platforms and Skype and other tools that they set up, and they have a challenge to develop a solution for the problem that they were given. They work during the semester, and then at the end of the semester they have another meeting. This year the meeting will be here at ISEP between the 23rd and the 26th June, where they put their solution together, present it before an international jury, and get graded by that. So this is a way to promote international contact without having to be abroad. And we are getting very good results on this. What we have here is an analysis of the comments of students from the first 2 editions of MUTW, and we can see that the key topics that are mentioned as being acquired and experienced by students in this form of teaching is, you can see that 98% of the students, so we made some content analysis on a set of questions that we asked students to answer. It's open questions, so they can write whatever they want, but then we have done some content analysis on that, and we have realized that 98% of the students mention these aspects related to personal development. 83% mention the cooperative structure of the project as being very valuable for them. Interpersonal development, and then other things that are, well, not as much referred, but also very important. So this type of teaching paradigm is in fact promoting these skills in students, and it's a way, a non-formal way of promoting students' employability. This is, well, okay, this is some suggestions from students also in the answer. So they need that, they feel the need to have some time management skills, some managing conflicts. So these students are coming from different cultures, cultures. We had already 2 years ago, we had a team that had students from Russia, Portugal, Greece, Belgium, Germany. This year we do not have the Russians, but well, anyhow, there are very many different ways of thinking, very many different ways of working, of solving the problems, and many conflicts arise during the MUTW course, but students are the leaders of the project, and they solve the problems in most of the cases. It's rare to, the need to have a more heavy intervention from the supervisors is rare, and students usually deal very well with all these issues. And that's it. That's what I had to tell you. Thank you for listening, and I give the floor to Tatiana. Thank you.
Thank you, Tuna. We are going now towards the second presentation. We agreed before that we are doing this short introduction to our roundtable, and then we are going to discuss. The second presentation will be given by Thomas Berger, key skill training situated in project work and internship, how to turn key practical situations into key skills training scenarios. Please, Thomas.
Okay, well, thank you, Tatiana, and hello everybody again. And I would like to follow up actually on that what Nuno said, and as he emphasized a lot the non-formal learning aspect which happens during internships and project work. And I would like just to emphasize that if we speak about non-formal learning, and if we agree that a lot of non-formal and informal learning for key skill training happens during a stay abroad, during project and internship work, my argument for this short presentation is actually that we need to make it visible. I think the aspect of non-formal learning is that it happens outside the workplace or outside the formal classroom. Maybe in the workplace, but outside the formal work agreements. So I think it's important that students are aware what kind of skills, apart from language and intercultural skills, they can actually develop during an internship abroad or during a virtual or other kind of project. And it's important because only when they are aware which skills they can develop, they can also tell future employers, or if they get self-employed, to future investors, what skills they actually acquired during their study course and during those phases of internships and project work. So I will refer to examples of a method we actually applied in different European projects, which is looking at the key situations in which valuable non-formal learning happens, and turn those key situations into small modulars, training modules to create this awareness among the students of the potential learning and what they actually acquired during those activities.
And I just would like to get back to the lifelong learning key competence definition, just to remind us what kind of activities, for example, during a stay abroad are possible. And in the entrepreneurship division, we speak about creativity, risk-taking, organization, flexibility, seizing opportunities. And we, in one of the projects from the cases I want to bring, discovered that many of these activities actually are taking place or are required, the skills are required when students go abroad. But I want to emphasize here, those who are maybe in the session tomorrow, I gave the broad overview, but I want to emphasize actually on this key situations approach. So that by identifying those situations, the aim was to collect students where they are and then motivate very practically to further develop the skills they are actually practicing. And it starts or was connected to the different phases of a stay abroad in this example. So for example, everybody, of course, who does an internship or a mobility abroad needs to plan it. But this can also be connected to a career development exercise where you really think about, okay, what do you want to achieve with your stay abroad? What are your strengths, weaknesses? Where can you develop so that this key situation that everybody undergoes planning is connected to certain exercises. Then, of course, during an internship abroad, you have to self-organize. For example, finding accommodation, and of course also to get your finances right. You might get a grant, you might get some compensation from the company, but normally this is already a pretty complex issue. And why not then using this, that was our idea, then to say, okay, give students a few tools of financial management and problem solving so that they are aware what they are doing and train those skills even more. And so this goes on with other exercises that they might encounter ethically challenging situation or issues connected to confidentiality in a company. Again, they have to deal with it, but we want to bring it in aware that this is also a typical situation, and there are some exercises connected to it regarding the social responsibility, but also dealing with confidentiality issues. Of course, there's a lot of intercultural interaction happening abroad, and here we brought in this idea of the ambassadorship, that if a student is abroad, he's automatically regarded by those people who he interact with as an ambassador of his home environment. And so we included an exercise to allow them to seize the opportunities connected to that and to see how you can deal with those roles. Many students experience either overstress or under challenge situations. Again, a common experience which we have from reports, which are a good reason to give them some exercises in self-organization and goal setting, because it's often connected to these situations that if you are unaware of what the exact goals are, this can cause those stress situations. Of course, during an internship abroad or during project work, you will always have conflicts, but also situations where you might be reluctant and have to overcome those reluctancies, and which, again, is a good reason to have connect this with some self-development and creative thinking exercises. And of course, everybody, when he's finished with the project or with the internship, has to report about the internship. But this is, again, a good opportunity to practice some of the skills, for example, communication skills, when they think about, okay, when I return home or when I finish the project, I'm kind of an ambassador of my host organization or of the region where I was to. So how can I use this role, which people put on me anyway, being ambassador of this host environment maybe, and kind of prepare some presentations, present results, or try to find links between my host organization and my home university. So again, this is a key situation turned into some exercises. And all this, all those key situations we selected and turned into the exercise, we're then forming an online course which is accompanying the stay of a student abroad, which starts and goes with him through the internship and when he comes back. So that's one example how we feel that non-formal learning can be made visible using this approach, connecting into very practical key situations. This is the website of the project where we did this together, and meanwhile my organization, who is running a Erasmus placements or a traineeships consortium, is now using the online course as a regular element of our Erasmus traineeships program. However, just to give some food for thought, I also want to give other examples how these key situations are used. For example, after this project, we were approached by the International Federation of Home Economics, something you would not connect automatically with mobility, etc. But they are running, this is an international federation, they have national organizations which consult people running households, often women who want to re-enter labor market or want to get self-employed after a stay at home. But in general, these, again, they were interested in these methods that you can identify key situations in everyday life of non-formal learning and can actually turn them in entrepreneurial learning opportunities. I just bring it here when we speak about, as we speak in these virtual internships, not about the classical internship abroad, but I want to a little bit create our minds that those kind of non-formal learning situations are everywhere in everyday life, but also, of course, connected to other forms of learning, like these virtual internships. I go a bit quicker here, but I just to demonstrate how you can use it. And so the idea was, everybody who runs a household actually performs non-formal learning tasks as well in a household. Now, if you invite guests, you are a host, you can, of course, use this as an opportunity and turn it into an exercise of customer orientation, planning, effective communication. If you plan your dream holiday or you're something for your family, you also need methods how you can pursue the dream and make the dream come true. And of course, this is something which can easily be connected to strategic planning and introducing the SMART goal setting as a be specific, measurable, etc. So private events, parties, those who have organized it know that's how much organization is involved in that. And of course, you need time and resource planning, of course, communication, teamwork, if you want to present it. Then, of course, if you're making purchases, bigger ones, you need to do your market research and financial planning. Sometimes, if you think of buying a house, etc., in a normal household, you will have even bigger tasks than in smaller companies. But in general, this is an opportunity and a practical situation, which is a good reason and an opportunity to train certain skills. Moving to new homes. Of course, you also have to seize opportunities, negotiate, communicate. And the idea is here that you look for those key situations and make them aware, those people who do them, and give some extra training to further develop them. And so that you can present it then later on to future employers or investors if you want to create your own company. Of course, shortage of money, financial research management, conflicts happen, of course, as well with neighbors, and conflict resolution, all those skills which of course can be applied in different settings. So the idea is here to look for those situations which have lots of learning opportunities, make learners aware of it, and help them to transfer this to other environments where you can apply those skills. Well, again, in this example, we turned then the key situations in learning modules, online learning modules, which is an online course, which is right now running in a pilot course setting as part of this, which is called M-House project. But the main message, again, is that I think it's good to find ways to make this non-formal learning visible. And just the last project example is that we teamed up with our John Monnet chair in Fulda and looked how can actually can turn mobile learners also, or say mobile learners should also be aware that they benefit most from all European citizens from EU citizenship rights and political development. I mean, the Erasmus program itself is a result of political developments, and of course by being able to work in another European country. I mean, these are all possibilities which are resulting from political processes, and the idea is how can we create this awareness and encourage those who are interested in those topics to use a stay abroad really also for civic learning. And again, we are now in the process to look for, again, for certain key situations and check if we can, with the help, for example, of the Erasmus Student Network and other actors, go even a step further, not just reflecting about your non-formal learning, but to encourage extra activities. Like, for example, to participate in civic projects the Erasmus Network is doing. But especially if you look for students who go for an internship, they are normally not as connected to a student community. So actually you have to encourage them to actively check if in their region where they do their internships, they actually have an Erasmus Student Network group, and try to get in touch with them as they are not part of a university environment. And the same is true when they are in host organizations, that they will probably encounter that their host company has to deal with European regulations, which is very probable in a European environment. And why not use this as an opportunity to look a bit further in the policies which are behind why this organization has to deal with European regulations. And again, very practical, everybody who travels will also encounter certain incidents, delays, cancellations, lost luggage, or you get ill and need to visit a doctor. Again, these are also opportunities to check, okay, what actually kind of rights do I have? I mean, the European Union, just for example, for these travel issues, offers an app which gives you, in the different languages, the rights you have as a passenger or as a patient, etc. And I think, again, this is an opportunity to make people aware of it, but then also to encourage them maybe and say, do you agree or disagree with certain situations which you encounter during your stay, and then maybe get active to, for example, look if there's a EU citizen initiative and if you want to support it, or what you can do. Of course, this is probably more appealing to humanities students, but nevertheless, it's the same idea, looking for very practical situation, create awareness, and here even go a step further, encourage further learning. I keep it with that, just as a, maybe as a final. I don't go into that now in detail, but in order to make people, allow them to really take action, we actually apply a modified version of the business canvas for those who know Osterwalder and the business canvas, which is actually for business planning, and we modified it actually for civic action, so that you plan your project, your activity, a little bit like as if you would plan a company project. But I leave it there, just some food for thought, and and hope for a fruitful discussion later on.
Thank you. I would allow now to introduce my presentation, Students with Disabilities in the Project Work and Internship, but trying to bring it also further to the widening participation in the area where already some of the topics have been opened. So actually I will try to go further where Thomas finished in some way, because he mentioned in the preparation for different activities, between others also the mobility, what all we have to take into account, on what all we have to be prepared, what all we have to think. But we have to think and prepare ourselves, especially for the mobility, in which we can do the project work, or we are doing the internship, or even the studies. In the case if we have to do with the persons with disabilities, or the persons who are coming from so-called package of the persons with widening participation, what I will explain a little bit later. In this case, we are trying to connect or to upgrade what we researched already before in the praxis, also with the SALI project, which has important point in the research of the students' disabilities as well as widening participation. So this presentation is also a result of the work together with the coordinator of the project, Anthony Ward from the University of York, and my successor, Ian Grote from University of Limerick in the work package 4, which is actually responsible for students with disabilities and for the widening participation. To present easier this topic, I'm going into case study presented by the University of Maribor, from where I'm coming, so how we are solving the problems. So short introduction, some legal issues that are covering the area all around Europe, and we have to take care about it when we are organizing also the mobilities, and how the procedures are looking like at our universities, and how the things are organized in the frame of the faculty, so going from top to the detailed levels where the actually practical problems started. Legal issues, you will see, they are well presented, organized. Procedures at the universities are also defined. Anyway, the procedures that have to be done at the faculty as well. But when we are coming to the lecture room, then the story first started. Then the problems appear. When the student wants to go to the mobility, then we have to find out what all it has to be done and how the student has to be also prepared for the project activity, internship, if the company can support the student with special needs, or if there is a kind of the project like Nuno presented already at the beginning, how such a student can be integrated in the team that was presented before, how the team building has to be done in that case, what all we have to give further. But first, to some introduction. Numbers of students with disabilities are growing up in the higher education institutions. So might be the information or the statement like this, it is shocked in some way. What? We are going with all the technology, research in biology and so on to be more and more ill or having more and more problems or demands? Not really. It is more interest for study. There are less barriers, physical and all others. There are mobility possibilities which are making additional motivation to go into the studies, to use all the possibilities. Technological support is growing from day to day, not only because of the IT, but the whole package of the technology. And of course, a lot of support on formal and organizational level is giving from the European community down to the associations and students. The background is, of course, in the rules, legislations, in different projects that are working on this area and doing the research to different good practices. So more interest is coming out, and awareness of possibilities is growing, and for that reason more students are coming and making a decision to go on the mobility. National agencies as well as universities are supporting those students, giving the additional financial support. and it was a kind of maybe not so clever comment, but anyway, showing that the people are really trying to invest in themselves as much as possible, whatever disabilities they have. When the Slovenian National Agency reserved on the base of the Erasmus program additional money for the people with disabilities, one administrative person said to me, I didn't know that we have in the frame of our university so many people with disabilities. So what was meaning that actually we are walking daily by the people, working with the people, and we are not even aware, or we do not have the information that might be in some points they need some additional support, and this is very important when we are organizing either the project work, either the internship, especially in the package with the mobility. Preparation has to be done as well as for students, as well as for teacher, as well as for team, as well as adjustments of laboratories, lecture rooms, and special technical tools. It's sometimes very easy just to change or to move one button from the right side to the left side, and nobody has any problem to use it by some tools, while in some other cases might be the things are going more problematic. We are going further with the legal issues on the level of Slovenia. So already the Slovenian constitution is guaranteeing equal opportunities to everyone to enter into the education as well as into the higher education, where law and the constitution are upgraded by the Higher Education Act. Law is talking about the children with special needs already from the beginning, and I use now for the first time the word special needs. I use now disabilities, special needs, widening participation. All around Europe, we found out in our research that we are using also different explanations, which can mean limited things connected really to the health problems. On the other side, it can mean also the sport people, the artists, the students who are involved in administrative activities at the university, the people that they have the problems with economical financing of the studies and similar. All those things are on the base of the previous mentioned legal issues, also written in the fundamental documents of the University of the Maribor. So procedures are very precisely defined regarding students with disabilities. And when we are saying the students with disabilities, we adding in this group all those students that I mentioned before. Sport active students who are on the top of the world in their own sport. They cannot attend the exams or the practical labs when they are scheduled. University of Maribor has really one of the best world skiers of the world, Tina Maze. She was Olympic winner of downhill between others in the last year. She got gold medals this year on the World Championship in alpine skiing. I know it's maybe strange to talk about this in Portugal, but anyway. And of course, if she has her practical classes, she's studying to become a teacher in winter semester. It's a little bit strange to demand for her because this is obligatory to go to the class when it was a world championship in the States. And we could present, of course, many similar things. Like artists, our Faculty of Education has a strong musician department where the students are also some opera singers, the members of the opera corps and so on. So if they have the tour or if they have to do the performance, they cannot do the obligations in the school, and similar is with the students involved in activities for the university, for the student associations, and those who have first to work that they can then survey and study at all. Whatever we are offering, every of those students have to do the registration, or better to say, has to apply to get this recognition, because the evidence, like I mentioned, the sport lady, Tina Maze, is not enough. She has to say, look, I'm Tina Maze, I need the support of the university, I'm counting to the group of students with the special needs, and then, of course, after the procedure, she is getting the confirmation of this application, and she can work on the special activities as they are defined in the application. The only thing which is a little bit different already from the beginning is the selection process, because those students need to have 85% of the points that normally students have to apply to the university or one of the programs. Written documents about the status for students with disability, including instructions as they are numbered here, so that they can do only the oral exam, that they can get more time to write, that they can get additional exam terms, that they are able to use special tools and adaptions, that some special helps on exam is allowed, like a third person helping, writing, reading, or explaining some of the things, that they can have the breaks within the exams, that they can write longer, and some other that could appear depends on the special need or disability, if we are using these two words. Working together in the team with the students without disabilities and other needed or logical adaptations are also detailed, described, so that the teachers, assistants, and technical staff can support the students. This was just a part of the description how the things can run in one country, at one university, at one faculty. As I said, the project Sally find out the big differences all around Europe. They have different arrangements for students with disabilities or for the widening participation. Inside Slovenia, we found out that we have much bigger differences as we have expected. Even the definitions are not completely transferable from one university to another university, even that we have in Slovenia just 4 universities. And for that reason, we have to be more careful by practical arrangements for students with disabilities as well as for students with widening participations. Both need our support to be as much as possible independent and bring better results to the area. With this, I would like to conclude my presentations about the students with disability in project work and internship. And now we are going to the discussion with questions from the auditorium to all 3 of us, and some other discussion that I hope will appear very intensively for the next time that we still have available, something like a half an hour before we are sending you to lunch, so to say. Thank you. So you have been able to hear 3 quite different presentations, all having to do with the students, with the project work, with the internship, with the mobility from the different point of view. And And the stage is open for the questions to these short presentations. It's not necessary really to ask only the questions. I mean, our opinion on the three topics or experiences, case studies that you have in your environments are very welcome as well. I'm afraid tired, already looking forward for lunch, hungry. Might be I'm trying to go back to you with the question, starting from my point of view. I'm sure that you have these topics opened also at your university. How many of your institutions have the special person or the office for the widening participation or for students with special needs or students for disabilities? 2, 3, 4. I mean, few of you, so it's somebody prepared to share a little bit of information, how the things are organized on your sites? Do we have a micro? Here down, please, on your left.
Hello. I arrived late, I apologize for that, but I can share our experience in hosting, especially we're not sending, we haven't sent lately any student with special needs, but we've been receiving some students with special needs, and one of the major aspects is our office is not prepared to all sorts of special needs, yes? We can handle visual impaired students, we can handle some special support for deaf students, we can accommodate some of the physical displacements, but not all sorts of special needs, and I think that's important, yes, and it demands a huge interaction with the home university before we host these special students. We have received students visually impaired, and we have received students with deaf problems. It's very demanding, even though Erasmus has extra support for those students. Perhaps this is something relevant to say. In one particular case, the support was not enough to cover the necessary costs, and our university had to co-finance the person that had to accompany for certain hours that specific student in the classroom. And now we have one Lebanese within Erasmus Mundus project that is not entirely blind, but really with a high percentage of blindness and serious sight problems, but the program could not provide her with any extra support. So we have to accommodate that, we have to facilitate the software, we have to create all the special mechanisms that you mentioned and that I had the opportunity to see, the extra timing, the alternative assessment methodologies, this office that accompanies the student, the signs on the ways that, for example, we have to predetermine all the itinerary, yes, for this particular student, so she could have the right indication. So there are all sorts of special measures that need to be implemented to make it possible, yes? Some of them is resource-oriented in terms of human resources or the mechanisms that are in place at university that do not apply only to foreigner students but also to national students. And in some other cases, it demands some effort from the host university in terms of financial means. So we had to hire, for example, a translator and we could only afford a certain number of hours from the university budget, and I believe that we contributed more than the home university to that particular mobility period. Yeah, so these are things that sometimes in practice do not really work as the program guidelines and the policy statements state. Yeah, so this is just the information that I would like to share.
Thank you, Adriana. It was great to share this with us and showing, as I mentioned already before, legal and by the procedures, all things are very well written, but practical experiences are then giving really the point of the real life. And I shortly mentioned yesterday, but I believe it's a good point anyway to mention, that somewhere at the beginning of July, but then later, under the SALI webpage, the Center Student Support Hub will be available with the all collected informations from all around Europe, as well as some cases, good case practices that we hope will support everyone. Would somebody would like to add to this topic, or one of the others too that we had discussed before? Any further question in this moment?
May I add something?
Of course, please.
Well, it's not related to this very important issue that we have been discussing on disabilities. It has nothing to do, but it's something that I don't know if any of you have this experience, and I would like to stress this. This appeared because Praxis is a portal for project internship, but that is directed for higher education. But since the beginning, that it was all foreseen to have Praxis available also for vocational education and training. So at this moment, there is a project running, being coordinated by a big vet institution from the Netherlands, where Praxis is a partner. And what we are trying to do is to use the Praxis platform also to include VET. But I'm just introducing this so that you can see where what I'm saying next comes from. I was a few weeks ago in one of these meetings, and all the partners are VET institutions except Praxis, and I had the chance to talk with all our partners and to realize that in VET there are many different and very interesting teaching paradigms that we are, as far as I can see, we are not using in higher education. They are using a lot job shadowing, part-time internships that students are 3 days working in a company, 2 days at school. And I think that this type of teaching paradigms might also be somehow important into higher education to provide more opportunities for the students to experience these soft skills. I don't know if any of you has any experience on this line.
I don't know, maybe I can add here something. Actually, we are finding out that, especially by the engineering studies and engineering students, there is sometimes a lack of these soft skills because they didn't get real motivation to develop them, but they are more demanding for some engineering activities. But more and more students want to have some second part, to be like a complete person, to say a little bit in that way, and that they are starting now to join the activities and the projects of the students, in our case from the media communication studies, where a lot of these soft skills are appearing. Some further experience from the audience, or some experiences connected to the already mentioned Praxis platform that is available now, offering the projects, accepting the students. Micro, please.
Hello, good morning. My name is Inês. I work in the international office of the Polytechnic Institute of Bragança. And we are in the Polytechnic Institute, we are empowering a lot the internships since 4 years ago, more or less. Last year with the Now Portugal Consortium, we started to use even more by doing the application in the Praxis platform. And currently, we are using a lot the Praxis platform to post placement offers for incoming students, mainly in this purpose for incoming. We post, so we are using proactively this portal to receive students in Bragança. We find it very useful to attract students to our region, to our city. And as a responsible person for placements, I receive a lot of requests through Praxis, and also I'm using it as one of the ways to promote placements abroad. So we promote Praxis also to our own students, to our outgoing students, to find placements outside Portugal. So I just like to share this small experience, but very valid to empower internships, Erasmus internships in the Polytechnic. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you also for this experience that it's given from the side of the platform. I can just add that actually myself, I'm getting regularly, probably per week one, asking for the projects if they are still available on those that are on the platform, what means that the platform is visible all around the countries, and I think this is very positive. Some other experiences that you would like to share with us, or having any further questions for us according to the presentations that we did it and presented. It was also interesting the point of view how project work and planning has to be connected. Do the students have, in your cases, any preparing, going for the mobility in different points of view? So either there is the project work, internship, the classical mobility, or something like this. Might be we can ask how many of you have special preparatory courses for students before they are going for the mobility? No courses available? Do you have, Thomas, some at your university? Maybe you can add something?
Yes, well, as I said, based on those key situations, we enroll all our Erasmus traineeship students in this accompanying online course. So we cannot afford what we would like to do, face-to-face sessions, because we are in a consortium of different universities and students go at very different times in internships. Those who are no traineeship mobility is all individual mobility, but you know, by joining in a consortium of 10 universities, we have a critical mass of students which we send abroad, so it's 200 per year. But this means that in each month, in each week, there are at least 50 students somewhere abroad, so that we can enroll them in such courses, and so that we have this accompanying online training available throughout the year, and they can enroll anytime because it's modular. But we have always enough, let's say, a critical mass of students that they have, that we have groups of 15, 20, 2 or 3 parallel groups which are moderated by an online trainer. So I think that's one way to deal, for instance, with the issues that you might have on the individual mobility, team up with others in consortia or in other networks, so that it can be feasible to have such extra training.
Thank you, Thomas. further comments, questions? No, if not, yeah, here on this side, please.
Yes, hello, I'm Eddie Gray from the UK, and just an observation to get back to what students really do. I take all your points, particularly the need to encourage students to develop more soft skills, because this is what industry wants. However, there are time limits on students' time, and in the UK, a lot of students are in debt and in fact have to work part-time, and their only focus is on the next assignment. We run all sorts of courses for employability, talks from people from industry, careers advice, but the students don't turn up. I'd like to know if this is true in other countries. The fact is, students concentrate on the next assignment, and it's very difficult to get students to look to employability until they're in their final year, and it's often too late. At least that's the reality in my university. I'd like to know how, if this is the same in many other universities.
So, any comment on this? How is this with other universities?
Well, I guess the same scenario happens here with us. So students are very focused on getting good marks, and on the next assignment. I think that's a good possibility to use these, because the marks really are important for the students. It's the starting point. What we are trying to do at ISEP, and we do this already for several years, is to try to find ways to lecture or to teach those hard skills through assignments that involve students in activities that are not strictly classroom activities, so that they can experience and develop these soft skills. At my department, we have 16 weeks of classes per semester, but these are divided into periods. The first period is a period of 12 weeks with traditional courses, and the last 4 weeks are dedicated for a project where the students develop a project in teams depending on the semester. So we have all the 6 semesters of the bachelor degree. In each semester, these last weeks are specifically designed to practice the competencies, the skills that were lectured during the first 12 weeks. So there is a different project addressing different competencies in each semester, and it's a period of 4 weeks where the students are focused on project work, usually in big teams, to develop a given solution and practice what they have learned during the first 12 weeks, and developing other soft skills or more competencies more addressed for non-technical issues.
Maybe I can add, because I mentioned already before that our students are going to be more and more interested also in these soft skills, even that they are not necessarily teach so much. The other thing where we can see that they are very interesting also into interdisciplinary cooperation and learning from their colleagues. From that point of view, it's the project Demola. Demola is coming from Finland, from Tampere, where they started to do the project activities together with the companies, similar as was the presentation before from Nuno at the beginning. And they are also doing to build together the interdisciplinary teams, but these interdisciplinary teams are usually local because they are organized by the university, so it's not going international. And there is a lot of look to the students that they have from their study programs, the social skills, and then they are giving in the frame of the project the presentations for the topics that are of the interest. Some further comments or questions? If not, we would like to conclude with more or less promising that we have given already at the beginning, that the mind map that we presented to you completely at the beginning will be upgraded. I believe each of us has a list of the comments, of the ideas, how to present these relationships already prepared. And as said, we will publish this on the web pages of the Praxis, of the Eracon, and you are welcome to give after that, if you are interested, your comments, send us messages, or whatever information you believe can be useful. We are, of course, inviting you now for the lunch, and after the lunch at 3 o'clock, there will be, in the frame of the Praxis Forum, workshop opening the labor market to higher education, where you can come to see what is available, what practical activities are going to be done in this, how you can register, how you can put your projects, how you can see what's going on, and give the support to your students. Of course, there are other interesting lectures in the afternoon, and I wish you, of course, a wonderful evening with dance tonight and enjoying the Portuguese culture and food. Before we really finished, I would like to thank to you, especially those sharing with us your experiences and giving the comments, as well as to both speakers. Nuno, thank you. Thomas, thanks. And hope to meet all of you again in some other meetings, and of course, Eracon in 2016. Thank you.